This is verse 74. Knowing me to be the performing austerities with the desire to touch his feet, he came with his friend Arjuna and accepted my hand. Yet I am but a maidservant, engaged in sweeping the floor of the house of Sri Krishna. This is Rukmini, the queen of Dwarka, saying. 75. Through austerity and through renunciation of all attachment, we have become maidservants in the house of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is satisfied in himself. What to speak of others, even Lord Baladev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is full of emotion, like pure friendship and paternal love. He also considers himself a servant of Lord Krishna. Indeed, who is there who does not have this conception of being a servant of Lord Krishna? He who is Ch.Ch, Sankarshan, with his thousands of mouths, serves Sri Krishna by assuming 10 forms. Rudra, who is an expansion of Sadashiva and who appears in unlimited universes, is also a guna avatar, qualitative incarnation, and is the ornament of all the demigods in the endless universes. He who also desires only to be a servant of Lord Krishna, Sri Sadashiva, always says, I am a servant of Lord Krishna. Intoxicated by ecstatic love for Lord Krishna, he becomes overwhelmed and incessantly dances without clothing and sings about Lord Krishna's qualities and pastimes. All the emotions, whether those of father, mother, teacher, or friend, are full of sentiments of servitude. That is the nature of love of Krishna. Lord Krishna, the one Master and the Lord of the universe, is worthy of being served by everyone. Indeed, everyone is but a servant of his servants. That same Lord Krishna has descended as Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everyone, therefore, is his servant. Some accept him, whereas others do not. Yet everyone is his servant. One who does not accept him, however, will be ruined by his sinful activities. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of his servants. Saying this, Advaita Prabhu dances and loudly sings. Then, at the next moment, he quietly sits down. The source of the sentiment of servitude is indeed Lord Balaram. The plenary expansions who follow him are all influenced by that ecstasy. Lord Sankarshan, who is one of his incarnations, always considers himself a devotee. Another of his incarnations, Lakshman, who is very beautiful and opulent, always serves Lord Ram. The Vishnu who lies on the causal ocean is an incarnation of Lord Shankarshan, and accordingly the emotion of being a devotee is always present in his heart. Advaita Acharya is a separate expansion of him. He always engages in devotional service with his thoughts, words, and actions. By his words he declares, I am a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Thus, with his mind, he always thinks, I am his devotee. With his body, he worshipped the Lord by offering Ganges water and tulasi leaves, and by preaching devotional service, he delivered the entire universe. Ch.Ch Shankarshan, who holds all the planets on his heads, expands himself in different bodies to render service to Lord Krishna. These are all incarnations of Lord Krishna, yet we always find that they act as devotees. The scriptures call them incarnations as devotees, Bhakta Avatar. The position of being such an incarnation is above all others. Lord Krishna is the source of all incarnations, and all others are his parts or partial incarnations. We find that the whole and the part behave as superior and inferior. The source of all incarnations has the emotion of a superior when he considers himself the master, and he has the emotion of an inferior when he considers himself a devotee. The position of being a devotee is higher than that of equality with Lord Krishna, for the devotees are dearer to Lord Krishna than his own self. Lord Krishna considers his devotees greater than himself. In this connection, the scriptures provide an abundance of evidence. O Uddhava, neither Brahma, nor Sankara, nor Shankarshan, nor Lakshmi, nor even my own self is as dear to me as you. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. This conclusion, I'll read it again, I think it's important. The sweetness of Lord Krishna is not to be tasted by those who consider themselves equal to Krishna. It is to be tasted only through the sentiment of servitude. This conclusion of the revealed scriptures is also the realization of experienced devotees. Fools and rascals, however, cannot understand the opulences of devotional emotions. Baladev, Lakshman, Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Lord Ch.Ch. and Lord Shankarshan taste the nectarian mellows of the transcendental bliss of Lord Krishna by recognizing themselves as being his devotees and his servants. They are all mad with that happiness, and they know nothing else. What to speak of others? Even Lord Krishna himself becomes thirsty to taste his own sweetness. He tries to taste his own sweetness, but he cannot do so without accepting the emotions of a devotee. Therefore, Lord Krishna accepted the position of a devotee and descended in the form of Lord Chaitanya, who is complete in every respect. He tastes his own sweetness through the various emotions of a devotee, I have formally explained this conclusion. All the incarnations are entitled to the emotions of devotees. There is no higher bliss than this. The original Bhakta avatar is Sankarshan. Sri Advaita is counted among such incarnations. The glories of Sri Advaita Acharya are boundless, for his sincere vibrations brought about Lord Chaitanya's descent upon this earth. He liberated the universe by preaching Sankirtan. Thus, the people of the world received the treasure of love of Godhead through the mercy of Sri Advaita. Who can describe the unlimited glories of Advaita Acharya? I write here as much as I have known from great authorities. I offer my obeisances 10 million times to the lotus feet of Sri Advaita Acharya. Please do not take offense at this. Your glories are as fathomless as millions of oceans and seas. Speaking of it, measure is a great offense indeed. O glories to Sri Advaita Acharya, O glories to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the superior Lord Nityananda. Thus, in 2 verses, I have described the truth concerning Advaita Acharya. Now, O devotees, please hear about the 5 truths, Panchatattva. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the ultimate goal of life, for one bereft of all possessions in this material world, and is the only meaning for one advancing in spiritual life. Thus let me write about his magnanimous contribution of devotional service in love of God. Let me offer glorification to the Supreme Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One who has taken shelter of his lotus feet is the most glorified person. In the beginning, I have discussed the truth about the spiritual master. Now I shall try to explain the Panchatattva. These 5 tattvas incarnate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus the Lord executes his Sankirtan movement with great pleasure. Spiritually, there are no differences between these 5 tattvas, for on the transcendental platform everything is absolute. Yet there are also varieties in the spiritual world, and in order to taste these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. Let me offer my obeisances unto Lord Sri Krishna, who has manifested himself in 5 as a devotee, expansion of a devotee, incarnation of a devotee, pure devotee, and devotional energy. Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, the Supreme Controller. No one is greater than or equal to Sri Krishna. Yet he appears as the son of Maharaj Nanda. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the supreme enjoyer in the rasa dance. He is the leader of the damsels of Braja, and all others are simply his associates. The selfsame Lord Krishna advanted himself as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with all his eternal associates, who are also equally glorious. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is the supreme controller, the one personality of Godhead, has ecstatically become a devotee, yet his body is transcendental and not materially tinged. The transcendental mellow of conjugal love of Krishna is so wonderful that Krishna himself accepts the form of a devotee to relish and taste it fully. For this reason, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the supreme teacher, accepts the form of a devotee and accepts Lord Nityananda as his elder brother. Sri Advaita Acharya is Lord Chaitanya incarnation as a devotee. Therefore, these three tattvas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Gosai, are the predominators or masters. One of them is Mahaprabhu, and the other two are Prabhus. These two Prabhus serve the lotus feet of Mahaprabhu. The three predominators, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, and Advaita Prabhu, are worshipable by all living entities, and the fourth principle, Sri Kadada Prabhu, is to be understood as their worshipper. There are innumerable pure devotees of the Lord, headed by Srivas Thakur, who are known as unalloyed devotees. The devotees headed by Kadadhar Pandit are to be considered incarnations of the internal potency of the Lord. They are confidential devotees engaged in the service of the Lord. The internal devotees or potencies are all eternal associates in the pastimes of the Lord. Only with them does the Lord advance to propound the Sankirtan movement. Only with them does the Lord taste the mellow of conjugal love, and only with them does he distribute this love of God to people in general. The characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his associates of the Panchatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst for it grew. Sri Panchatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of Godhead. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen, and in this way they distributed love of Godhead. In distributing love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate or who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Panchatattva distributed love of Godhead. Although the members of the Panchatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there was no scarcity. For this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. The flood of love of Godhead swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women, and children were all immersed in that inundation. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. When the 5 members of the Panchatattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all became exceedingly happy. The more the 5 members of the Panchatattva cause the rains of love of Godhead to fall, the more the inundation increases and spreads all over the world. The impersonalist, fruitive workers, false logicians, blasphemers, non-devotees, and lowest among the student community are very expert in avoiding the Krishna consciousness movement, and therefore the inundation of Krishna consciousness cannot touch them. Seeing that the Mayavadis and others were fleeing, Lord Chaitanya thought, I wanted everyone to be immersed in this inundation of love of Godhead, but some of them have escaped. Therefore, I shall devise a trick to drown them also. Thus the Lord accepted the sannyas order of life after full consideration. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in householder life for 24 years, and on the verge of his 25th year, he accepted the sannyas order. After accepting the sannyas order, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu attracted the attention of all those who had evaded him, beginning with the logicians. Thus the students, infidels, fruitive workers, and critics all came to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya excused them all, and they merged into the ocean of devotional service, for no one can escape the unique loving network of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in order to deliver all the fallen souls. Therefore, he devised many methods to liberate them from the clutches of Maya. All were converted into devotees of Lord Chaitanya, even the Mlecchas and Yavanas. Only the impersonalist followers of Sankarshan evaded him. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was pressing through Varanasi and his way to Vrindavan, on his way to Vrindavan, the Mayavadi sannyasi philosophers blasphemed him against him in many ways. The blasphemer said, although a sannyasi, he does not take interest in the study of Vedanta, but instead always engages in chanting and dancing in Sankirtan. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an illiterate sannyasi and therefore does not know his real function. Guided only by his sentiments, he wanders about in the company of other sentimentalists. Hearing all this blasphemy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merely smiled to himself, rejected all these accusations, and did not talk with the Mayavadis. Thus, neglecting the blasphemy of the Varanasi Mayavadis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded to Mathura, and after visiting Mathura, he returned to meet the situation. This time, Lord Chaitanya stayed at the house of Chandrasekhara. Although he was regarded as a Sudra or Kayasta, for the Lord, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is completely independent. As a matter of principle, Lord Chaitanya regularly accepted his food at the house of Tapana Mishra. He never mixed with other sannyasis, nor did he accept invitations from them. When Sanatan Goswami came from Bengal, he met Lord Chaitanya at the house of Tapana Mishra. When Lord Chaitanya remained continuously for 2 months to teach him devotional service. On the basis of scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, which reveal these confidential directions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Goswami regarding all the regular activities of a devotee. While Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was instructing Sanatana Goswami, both Chandrasekhara and Tapana Mishra became very unhappy. Therefore, they submitted an appeal unto the lotus feet of the Lord. How long can we tolerate the blasphemy by your critics against your conduct? We should give up our lives rather than hear such blasphemy. The Mayavadi sannyasis are all criticizing your holiness. We cannot tolerate hearing such criticism, for this blasphemy breaks our hearts. While Tapana Mishra and Chandrasekhara were thus talking with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he only smiled slightly and remained silent. At that time, a Brahmana came there to meet the Lord. The Brahmana immediately fell at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and requested him to accept his proposal in a joyful mood. My dear Lord, I have invited all the sannyasis of Benares to my home. My desires will be fulfilled if you also accept my invitation. My dear Lord, I know that you never mix with other sannyasis, but please be merciful unto me and accept my invitation. Lord Chaitanya smiled and accepted the invitation of the Brahmana. He made his gesture to show his mercy to the Mayavadi sannyasis. The Brahmana knew that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never went to anyone else's house, yet due to inspiration from the Lord, he earnestly requested him to accept this invitation. The next day, when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the house of that Brahmana, he saw all the sannyasis of Benares sitting there. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the sannyasis, he immediately offered obeisances, and then he went to wash his feet. After washing his feet, he sat down by the place where he had done so. After sitting on the ground, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his mystic powers by manifesting an effulgence as brilliant as the illumination of millions of suns. When the sannyasis saw the brilliant illumination of the body of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, their minds were attracted, and they all immediately gave up their sitting places and stood in respect. The leader of all the Mayavadi sannyasis present was named Prakasananda Saraswati, and after standing up, he addressed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows, with great respect. Please come here, Your Holiness. Why do you sit in that unclaimed place? What has caused your lamentation? The Lord replied, I belong to a lower order of sannyasis, therefore I do not deserve to sit with you. Prakasananda Saraswati, however, caught Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally by the hand and seated him with great respect in the midst of the assembly. Prakasananda Saraswati then said, I understood your name is Sri Krishna Chaitanya. You are a disciple of Sri Keshava Bharati, and therefore you are glorious. You belong to our Shankara Sampradaya and live in our village, Varanasi. Why then do you not associate with us? Why is it that you avoid even seeing us? You are a sannyasi. Why then do you indulge in chanting and dancing, engaging in your Sankirtan movement in the company of fanatics? Shall I stop here and we read further tomorrow morning? Okay. Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Jai Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Jai Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Srila Gurudev. Hare Yaraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopala Govinda Ram Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Sri Acharya Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakal Srila Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sri Rupa Nuka Kurvaka Ki Jai. Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Sabhashal Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Sabhashal Sri Mama Prabhu Ki Jai. Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Chandra Kuna Radha Kuna Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Jai Ganga Yamuni Ju Ki Jai. Jai Sri Navadu Dham Ki Jai. Jai Sri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jai Sri Purushottama Dham Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Chu Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat East London Chapter Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswati Mat West London Chapter Ki Jai. Samata Vaishnava Mandala Ki Jai. Samata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanand